Warhammer Vermintide 2 is a first-person hack-and-slash game and was released on March 8, 2018. To describe the game, it's pretty much just Left 4 Dead with swords. So let's talk about how it runs. It runs fine for me personally, and I haven't really heard of anyone else getting any performance issues, except for one, that is. In short, this game has a lot of bugs.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird!
It's a plane! Nordlanders.
Yeah, that's not the only bug. Now, I really haven't found any game-breaking ones, unless you count that time I got free bombs. So, Vermintide 2 revolves around you completing one of 13 4-player co-op missions, choosing between a cast of 5 characters on one of 4 different difficulties. There are about 2 to 3 main threats that you need to worry about. And these threats are bosses, hordes, and specials. Bosses are fine, but some of them are very frustrating to deal with, like the Chaos Spawn. And also, 4 of the missions have their own unique boss battles. Hordes aren't all that intimidating if you know how to block and parry, but they are like really fun to fight. Now, specials are like very diverse. Like there's things like Chaos Warriors and Stormburn, which are armored enemies. There are things like Assassin Rats, Globadiers, Leeches. All these things just kind of out of nowhere just to pester you in different kinds of ways. So these 3 threats that I mentioned are dealt with by certain characters with certain weapons. So let's briefly go over the characters. So the first character we're going to start with is Sienna Fueganarsis. I totally butchered that name. In general, Sienna is a fire mage. Using her abilities and her staff fills up a little overcharge bar at the bottom of your screen. If this bar is filled up all the way, then you get a fiery explosion, and that downs you. But it's pretty good at killing hordes, I guess. So let's talk about her first career. So first up is the Battle Wizard. So my overall thoughts on a Battle Wizard are meh. Her career ability is a dash forward that leaves fire in her path. And while it is cool, it's kind of clunky, and her other careers have way more useful abilities. Her passive ability is the only reason I think some people prefer to use her. The passive ability is, if you don't use your staff or spells for 8 seconds, your overcharge bar clears out very quickly. And while this passive is cool, I just think the Battle Wizard is overshadowed by the other 2 options she has, like the Pyromancer. The Pyromancer seems to be the more competitively viable Sienna class. Your career ability shooting a fireball that randomly hits targets and stuns bosses. This spell is great for killing hordes, and it's especially great when compared to the lame dash that the Battle Mage has. However, her passive is not as exciting. The Pyromancer's passive is just an increased critical hit chance based on your overcharge. Now, while I don't like this one very much just due to it's not very unique, it does suit Sienna's playstyle well, because once your overcharge gets too high, your melee weapon becomes a force to be reckoned with. Last but not least, we have the Unchained. This one is my favorite, even though I think the Pyromancer is a lot more viable on higher difficulties. So your ability is a fire detonation around yourself that also clears out all of your overcharge. So you can use your staff until almost fully overcharged, run into a horde, explode, and then be fine and dandy with another recharge bar ready to go. It's just so awesome. Your passive is simply that 20% of your damage is transferred to your overcharge bar. So you're pretty tanky too. Well, you're still not as tanky as, well, the more tanky careers in the game. But regardless, both these abilities are awesome and very fun to use. Now I'm going to move on to Barton Gorkson. And because his careers are so distinctly different, let's just go straight into them. The Ranger Veteran. This class is a pretty solid one. Your career skill makes you invisible for a few seconds, so it's great for clearing out hordes. Your passive skill makes specials drop ammo on death, and because it's only a few shots every time, this passive kinda sucks. On my loadout, I bring a war pick for hordes and a handgun for specials. So overall, I say the Ranger Veteran is a solid career. The Iron Breaker. The Iron Breaker is one tanky boy. His career skill draws enemies towards him while simultaneously boosting his defense. His passive is completely absorbing 1 hit every 20 seconds. The weapons I use in an Iron Breaker are the war pick and the Drake Fire Pistol. pistols. Pistols are great because they don't use ammo, they just overheat. I still use a war pick as my melee, but I would probably recommend a shield weapon. I just like using the war pick. Now, you're just, like I said, a tanky boy as the Iron Breaker. I would definitely recommend it if you're just solo queuing because you don't need ammo, you get unlock a healing passive eventually, and, well, you're tanky, so you help your team in that way too.
Slayer.
The Slayer might be the most unique career in the game. His career skill is a leap that also increases your attack speed. This works well with his passive, which is a damage buff that's stacked on every hit. The craziest thing about the Slayer is that he has no ranged weapon. He just has 2 melee weapons. So overall, I don't like this class too much just because of the playstyle of heavy DPS, but I can certainly see why people do. So now, let's move on to Kruber. So he also has pretty unique classes, so I'm just going to go straight into them. The Mercenary. This class is a horde cleaner, and also a decent tank. Your career skill pushes enemies around you back, while also granting you and your teammates temporary health. Your passive increases attack speed by 10% for 6 seconds, if you hit 3 or more enemies in one swing of your weapon. Because of this passive, I feel either the Halberd or the Greatsword are a must. Overall, I think his class is a cool one, and even viable on higher difficulties. The Huntsman. This class is a bit more DPS focused. More specifically, DPS on bosses. Your career skill has you go invisible, I think? I'm still hit by enemies after using this, and so far from what I've seen how other people use it, it seems to give you a damage boost on your next shot. Like the description of the spell literally says you disappear from sight. I don't get it. Your passive on the other hand is a lot less confusing. If you get a headshot, your ammo is replenished. So, 1 headshot equals 1 free piece of ammo. So in theory, you can have infinite ammo as long as you hit headshots. Overall, this is a fun class and a good one to choose if you want to play DPS while leveling up your Kruber. The Foot Knight. This guy is an awesome tank. Your career skill is a dash that knocks down all the enemies in your path. It is so fun to use. Your passive is a bit boring though. Just a damage resistance aurora. It's cool, I guess? Overall, I think this is one of the most fun Kruber classes, and I'll even say it's quite viable on higher difficulties as well. Victor Saltspire, or as I like to call him, Salty Boy, is a dual-wielding cowboy zealot guy. With that being said, let's go into his careers. The Witch Hunter. This class is like a DPS-focused version of Kruber's Mercenary. Your career skill pushes away all of the enemies that are around you, and also gives you an increased chance of critical hits. Your passive gives tagged enemies a damage debuff, giving them increased damage taken. Now, I'm not really sure how good this passive is, because I always forget to tag enemies, but extra damage on bosses and specials is always a good thing. I guess my only problem with his career is that it's overshadowed by the 2 other alternatives. So, let's move on to the Bounty Hunter. This class is a lot more range focused than the Witch Hunter. You have a perk for extra ammo by default. Your career skill is just 1 powerful shot from your ranged weapon. It's really good versus bosses and some of the tanky specials. Your passive is a guaranteed critical hit every 10 seconds, and if you're good with timing it, it's great for killing specials. This is probably my favorite Saltspire class just because you're so good versus specials and bosses. And now let's move on to the Zealot. This class is a lot more melee focused than the Bounty Hunter. Your career skill is a dash forward that also grants you increased attack speed for 5 seconds. This is awesome for clearing hordes. Your passive increases your power by 5% for every 25 health missing. This is such a cool and unique passive because when you're bad like me, you'll get rewarded with extra damage. Overall, the Zealot just overshadows Witch Hunter's role in my opinion, and also makes for a very fun horde clearer. Last up, we have Carillion, and she's a bitch. She's the most annoying banter in the game. However, I do find her a lot of fun, and she's the only character I leveled up to level 30. So let's go over her careers. First up, the Waystalker. This class is an expert at special sniping. Your career skill fires 3 arrows that automatically lock onto enemies. This skill is perfect for a panic special kill. Your passive gives you passive health regeneration. That's it. Although you can unlock a talent that also has you regenerate arrows with this health, so that just further increases your special sniping capabilities. Overall, I think this class is a good one if you already have some horde DPS after taking this, and you need someone to deal with those specials. Now we have the Shade. The Shade is boss killer / chaos warrior killing 101. Your career skill has you go invisible, and your passive gives you a 1 hit on backstabs on man-sized enemies, like chaos warriors. So, this also works on bosses, but it doesn't actually 1-hit kill them. It just does a ton of fucking damage. Like, it is ridiculous how much damage you do versus bosses. Other than that, you're not as good at special killing as the Waystalker, and you're also not as good as horde killing as the next class, which is the Handmaiden. This class is by far my favorite one in the game. Not only is it good at special sniping, but it's also good at horde clearing and survivability. So, your first career skill is a dash that gives enemies that it passes through bleeding damage. This is great for hordes, and also great for escaping, really. Your passive gives you increased dodge distance, and with the talent that I have, you get even more. You can literally dodge as fast as someone runs. It is insane. This class is just so survivable, and with your bow, you can take out specials. With your spear or your glaive, you can kill hordes, and with your spear or glaive, you can kill bosses. This class is my favorite one in the game. Okay, it took a lot longer than it should have. So overall, I think having all these careers is nice, even though some of them feel a bit samey. For example, every character has a dash of some sort. So there are 5 careers with a dash or a jump of some sort. But these are all at least a little different, so I'll forgive that. Now, I'm going to briefly, and I mean it this time, cover the difficulties. Recruit. This is the easiest difficulty in the game. Hell, you even start out with a healing item. Item drops are very common on this difficulty as well. Enemies do very little damage, special spawn rates are low, and hordes aren't very big. Like when playing on this difficulty, I almost never had to block or dodge attacks. So this is a good difficulty if you're just looking for some hack and slash fun. Veteran is a bit similar, but now your starting healing item is now removed. Spawn rates for items are lower, enemies hit a bit harder, and they spawn more often. On this mode, you're going to need to start learning how to block and dodge as well. Champion follows the same pattern. Item drops are lower as well as enemies spawn more and hit harder. However, this time friendly fire has been turned on for range attacks. While it's just a little annoying to get used to at first, it isn't much of a problem once you do. Lastly, we have Legend. This is the hardest difficulty in the game, and it's a bit of a grind fest. Spawn rates and enemy damage is through the roof, and so far I'm simply not geared or skilled enough to easily complete runs on this difficulty. However, I've been hearing people say that it's too easy, and they want a harder version. Hopefully someone like this can be patched in eventually. Overall, I think the difficulties are fine, and will be great once they add a harder version of Legend. Now, so far, I haven't had any real problems with this game, and that's because I haven't talked about these yet.
You can buy cosmetics, you can, or you can't really now, but the plan is to add cosmetics for you to buy. You can buy.
Fatshark said the first DLC was going to be at the end of April, and then they said it was going to be the end of May. Now we are almost at the end of July, and we haven't even gotten a trailer yet. Okay, I get it. The developers may have bit off a bit more than they could chew, and I get it the DLC is delayed a bit. After massively pissing off fans with no DLC, they still have the balls to add paid cosmetics. Now, a few of you might be asking, what do they need the money? No, they don't. Vermintide 2 made more money than Vermintide 1 made in its entire lifetime in just under 1 month. Like I said, I get it they're running behind schedule, but they promised mod support, dedicated servers, and DLC by the end of April. And I think we've only gotten mod support, and that was just recently. But no, they're gonna add paid cosmetics, there's still bugs, there's still no dedicated servers, and there's still no goddamn DLC. Now, do I recommend this game? It really depends. If the bad ethics don't bother you, then yeah, it's a fun hack and slash game, and you'll get your money's worth of all the careers and missions you can play. Like, it is a lot of fun, especially with friends. But the bad ethics just really bother me, and they should bother more people. Obviously, it is your opinion if you like this game, or if you do want to buy it. I'm just here to try to give you some knowledge, and that's it for the review. Alright, so that video took a lot longer than I expected it to make. I think it's been almost 2 weeks now. I was very inefficient with making this video. I've been spending a lot of time on it, but I was just horribly inefficient with actually making it. But I want to thank you guys for all the support I got on the Dawn War 3 video and even the Dominus video. And if you made it to the end of the video, a like or subscribe would mean a lot. Like, it really does. And I don't know what I'm going to review next. Probably the original Dawn War, or maybe Space Marine or AVP 2010. I don't know. If there's any of those you prefer, let me know. But I guess I'll probably just choose one of them anyways. Anyways, guys, this is Vibrid. Have a good one.